The Chiefs are continuing towards the three-peat, re-signing Mike Danna and CEH. Who will make the bigger impact? Jerick McKinnon is still on the market. Are the Chiefs going to continue to bring the band back together? Rashee might be in bigger trouble. Does this shift importance to wide receiver again? Jackson County rejected the proposed plan. What are your thoughts and hopes for the future? All that and more on Gridiron Gambit.
Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in to this Red Kingdom Media production, bringing you raw, authentic Chiefs coverage. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on your team. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Let's work. Hey.
Welcome to this Tuesday evening edition of the Gridiron Gambit. I'm your host, Clinton, and as always, my lovely co-stars for today, Daily Dale and Lonnie. How are you guys doing? One at a time.
Good.
Yeah, I can't complain. Ready to go ahead and get into these topics.
Yes, sir. So last week was pretty big for the Chiefs, I'd say. Not, big news-wise, but just some news that we were waiting to see come through. So as the first topic of the day states, Mike Danna and Clyde are both back joining the Chiefs. As we know, Mike Danna signed his 3-year deal, and Clyde is back just for the 1-year deal. We saw that Clyde recently just had his press conference saying he's glad to be back in Kansas City. KC made him a man. This is his home ever since he left Baton Rouge, ever since he stopped playing with Mr. Joe Burrow. And that both of them seem excited and can't wait to commence the three-peat. So let's go ahead and kick it off. Dale, how are you feeling about the addition of both Mike Danna and Clyde, whichever one you want to start with?
So I'm actually satisfied with both signings. To start off with Mike Danna first, just bringing him back and seeing the growth that we had with him ever since he came in as a Kansas City Chief, a guy who was from Michigan. We saw him when he was a little bit more raw, but we always saw those flashes. He definitely had the speed coming off the edge, and at times he was often actually attacking the quarterback and putting the pressure on him as well too. As the years went on, he actually developed more skill, and then he was able to actually capitalize and add more sacks to his sack total as well too. So you saw him actually grow as a player, and I think the Chiefs saw, like, with Chris Jones back, we have George Karlaftis, who's looking like he's becoming one of those guys who can eventually be one of the top DNs in the league, along with the guy on the other side with Mike Danna, where he has that veteran experience, and he also understands the assignments and also being a part of his defense for years as well too. It just makes sense just to make sure he's back for this run, because right now we have everyone back instead of L'Jarius Sneed, right? So pretty much it's still the same, and we saw this defensive line coming together as well too, especially with the addition of Charles Omenihu as well, which will be back after he recovers from his ACL injury. So I think there was, like, honestly, we got 2 defensive ends in the first round. The last couple years, we got George Karlaftis, who was starting to hit his stride, and then also Felix, who we talked about earlier before we actually got on here, to where he's a little bit more raw, but at the same time, we are hoping that within this next 1 to 2 years, he can actually be able to actually contribute more onto the defense and be a part of that defensive line. Because when you really look at Mike Danna deal, yes, a 3-year deal worth $24 million, but he's getting $13 million guaranteed. We always say this, like, pretty much it's a 2-year deal, probably $13 million deal. That last year, depending on like the dead cap space, if it's not as much, they might be willing to go ahead and move forward. Just that way, they can probably save a little bit back when they try to attack the next free agency. So if Felix actually, approves, and that's what we're hoping as well too, because we saw it. But like we talked about, he is a little bit slower coming off the line. So when you look at it, it's like, all right, maybe if we can help him with this explosiveness a little bit more, because it seems like he understands and know how to read it. We saw him get that tackle for a loss in the Super Bowl where he he hit his gap. He stayed true to it. He just followed what he was supposed to do. And guess what? It ended up working out for him. He was able to make a play. So I definitely love that addition. And then I'll talk about a little bit more about Clyde after I let you all go in and talk a little bit more about Mike Danna.
All right, sounds good, Lonnie.
Yeah, so I definitely approve and like the Mike Danna signing. I think it says a lot about the direction that we're going in as far as our defensive end room. Like, I feel like that, like we were saying off the air before we got on, It sends a message as to where we are going in the draft. We're not trying to look for a guy to load up the room with Chris Jones. This is a guy I think we were looking to kind of pair somebody with him long term while he was there, just kind of relieve that workload on the outside, like you said. We already have George Karlaftis, who is an ascending pass rusher, who was also a first-round pick, and Felix, who was shown to be a slower developing pass rusher, but was also a first-rounder as well. So I think this gives the Chiefs some buffer time, some buffer room within their defensive end room, and still loading it up with some guys that we have that are familiar faces, and they can also get good pressure. Mike Danna took a step this year. For sure. So much that I thought myself he would go back to Detroit, and I'm pretty sure I think everybody up here thought he would end up back in Detroit, where he was from. But that didn't happen. But I definitely think Mike Danna was due some money this year. He didn't get it. I hope he comes back even hungrier this year. But I think he for sure, I feel like, had one of his best years this year as a Chief. Don't know why he didn't get paid, but I think this just gives him some buffer room, gives him some time to figure out things with Felix, and I think they will get it figured out. Cullen is a great coach. He had that defensive line for the Ravens for years, looking like master classes. So I just can't wait to see what he does with a whole bunch of first-round picks.
Right. I think you both were kind of making my points for me. Danna is essentially the starter unless some high round draft pick can end up taking the spot, but we're not stuck into taking a defensive end within the first couple picks as a necessity. And now we don't force Felix to take starting reps when he perhaps is not ready to take the full load there is as an NFL edge rusher / edge player defending the run and all the things that it takes to be a defensive lineman. It is surprising to see Danna return, especially for more than one singular year. It's 2 years for sure, but the possibility of a third. I like the flexibility that this allows. Perhaps maybe a defensive tackle in early picks, because Charles Omenihu was known to play on the inside quite a bit in his roles, and especially during the third down pass rushes. And we've seen Chris Jones get put on the edge to rush the passer. So that could be something to watch if we don't see a defensive end taken. It could be a defensive tackle that gets moved around. And we know how much Steve and Joe Cullen especially likes having versatility in rotation in their defensive linemen, and frankly, just everybody on the defense in general. If you can keep switching out a player and not skip a beat, that's when defenses truly shine. So I'm glad to see him back. I don't think we're expecting 10 plus sacks in this giant jump, but we can assume a steady level of play. The one thing that kind of concerns me is that arguably Mike Danna was at his best when it's Chris Jones and a L'Jarius Sneed, and now we will not have that, the L'Jarius Sneed effect. So if I'm Brett Veach and Steve Spagnuolo, I want to continue to add these superstar level pieces to my defensive line. So I like the Mike Danna signing, but if the right player is there at the right time, that is just too much talent to overlook. I want them to jump on it, and whatever happens with the contract signed can kind of fall into the background. So, Dale, what were your thoughts on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire signing?
So a lot of people were probably disappointed and somewhat frustrated with bringing back Clyde, and I can't understand that with just some of the things that we saw throughout his tenure here. I would say in his first year as a rookie, he was solid to me, especially when he was healthy. He was getting the first downs that were needed. He was able to extend after the catch as well too, and out the backfield. He was kind of able to just kind of fill in and be someone who can actually add to the offense, and he wasn't horrible. After that, injuries kind of derailed what was going on, and that's why we saw lack of snaps during that time. But at the same time, when he did get his opportunities, he was able to make something happen. Often you can see him get 4 to 5 yards to carry if he's able to push a line, and the O line is actually doing what they're supposed to and just pushing those guys up front back. And he was able to, work with that. Now, is he someone I think that's over Isaiah Pacheco? Absolutely not. Isaiah Pacheco came in, worked hard for that position, and worked hard for that starting spot, and he got it. But I think with Clyde, he just adds an element to where he's a team player, and I think he started being better when he became that second option after Isaiah Pacheco, just because he has that experience of being a part of a championship team as well too. I mean, in his first year, he went to a Super Bowl, and he was a part of that system, and actually, did great. He had 1,000 yards in total scrimmage yards, so it's not like he wasn't able to be effective. It was just more of I talked about his size a lot. Honestly, at times it's like I want you to push a little bit more when you get into those situations where you're probably possibly getting stood up. You have a leverage being short. Use your lower body weight to be able to push up for those couple yards to get a first down. When it's a couple inches. Those are the type of things that's frustrated me. But he had a lot of times to where it's like, that was a great play. He was able to get out into the open field, make a man miss, and then get extra yards. I mean, damn, we saw him jump over somebody in the Buffalo Bills game where it's like he was out there really trying to ball out. So just having somebody out there that can be the running back too, and be able to produce at that level as well. And he was a first round pick. All right. I mean, we missed out on JK, but this guy been a part of the system. He's been a part of 2 Super Bowls. He been 3 Super Bowls, but he didn't get to play in one because of injury, but he played in 2 of them. So it's not like he's not familiar with what's going on. So I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad that he loves Kansas City and he wants to go out there and just be able to be a part of a team and kind of build on his legacy. I think he understands that with the contracts you see right now, those guys who's getting those deals that they're getting, they're the top guys and they're kind of getting robbed just because they're not making as much. So what you think they're going to do to him? Well, I might as well go to this team that's going to give me a little bit, probably more just because they know me and they have that relationship with me and not going to do me wrong. And then at that, I can keep on playing. So I'm fine with it. A lot of people might disagree, but it's okay. And, I find comfort in knowing that, okay, he's been a part of it before. What are we mad about? We know the outcome. The outcome was we've been to 3 Super Bowls. We won 2 of them, and he was in those ones that we won. So, that's all good with me.
Yeah, and I can definitely understand people's frustration, but I want everybody to understand that this is one of Brett Veach's guys. This is like to start his regime when he came in and really kind of took over and headed everything that he was doing on the team as far as general manager operations went. So it makes a lot of sense for him to bring him back, even though that JK was visiting at that time. I understand, but obviously it looks like things were not going in the direction that Brett Veach liked, and I think he just kind of has to show that he is willing to go and will go in a different direction. He's not willing. He won't shell out a lot of money. I don't know what the rumors may have been on the street whenever JK walked in the building, but it looks like I don't think Brett Veach liked the message that was out there on free agency about how he might have been spending his money because he made this move pretty quick. So I think it makes sense. It's a lot of value there for the player. He's coming back to a familiar team, like he said, the team that drafted him. Like I said, this is the GM's guy. This is a first round pick. If he used a first round pick on this guy, I'm definitely sure he's pretty willing to pay him. But he just probably didn't want to pay him the 5th-year option value for his contract. So it makes sense. It makes a ton of sense for the Chiefs and for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had a great year last year. Not as good as his rookie year, but it was one of his best years as a Chief. Other than the other years he was hurt. And then when he came back, he dealt with some ball security issues, which I think later lost him his job. But he handled all of that stuff well, and was able to get it together and put together a master class last year. Put together a master class to run through the playoffs. But I think it just makes so much sense for both sides. I want to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire do good. This is a guy that was in LSU. He was the key for the LSU offense. Jamar Chase was one thing with that LSU offense, but if you go back and watch Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield, you'll understand why he was a first-round pick and why Brett Veach chose him in the first round. just from lining him up outside, just seeing different things that he did with Joey Burrow and how they used him in that offense, and it was similar to the Chiefs' offense. So I want Clyde to have a ton of success. So I'm wishing the best for him, and I think it just makes a lot of sense for both sides.
I think I'll end it. I agree with a lot of your points. Again, of course, we'll need to see what the 1-year contract number ends up being, but it's nice to see Clyde back after having his 5th-year option declined and not having that ill will towards the front office, and being able to come back and admit that this place is still home, and evidently still not see the value on the free agency market as he would have hoped, and decided I should come back and try to get that championship ring and add to my legacy if the stats and the starting spot isn't necessarily there anymore. Because Clyde used to be our starter, and then injuries gave us concerns, and then we found Pacheco and we ran with it. But I mean, I've said it all the time, running back is a volatile position, and you can never expect it to last too long. So either one of these players that I just mentioned could be a 1 year or longer, but you can never assume much more than a short period of time. So I think the best case for Clyde is he ends up playing a role similar to that of the guy who we're going to talk about in literally 1 minute, and have him play that type of backup running back that comes in to block for Mahomes, that comes in to play pass catcher, to run the screen play, where Isaiah Pacheco isn't necessarily at his strongest. It keeps the defense guessing, and you're allowing Clyde to show off his strongest skill set versus making him become a pure runner, which is not something he was. The best trait of him out of college was his pass catching ability, and it never seemed to show up here. We saw a glimpse of that when he made that Edwards-Helaire catch in New England.
Yeah.
Right.
So he has the capability, and the more confidence he has, the more he can showcase, and the more that he can showcase in Kansas City, the better off it is for everyone. So let's move on to, well, who I alluded to here just a second ago. We've got Jerick McKinnon in the fold here. Nothing for sure, but he's still a free agent. JK Dobbins left Kansas City without a contract, but maybe there will be interested draft time or later. Chiefs Kingdom loves Jerick McKinnon for all he's done and the big plays that he's had. Last season, you've kind of seen him decline and slow down a little bit. So basically, is there a chance that he'll be back for the three-peat? I'll go ahead and start that because I think I might be the most optimistic of the three of us, and just say that Andy Reid loves familiarity, and Patrick loves a dependable pass blocker as a running back. So if nobody else is able to kind of step up and take that spot, then I would not be surprised to see McKinnon back if that is the way the Chiefs opt to go. Is it the most assumed position? I don't think so. I think drafting a young player or an undrafted player similar to Pacheco is the move that Brett Veach tends to prefer to execute. So I'm not 100%. I think it's possible. And like I said, I think of all of us, I'm the most optimistic that it could happen. So Dale, why don't you showcase your levels of interest in McKinnon?
All right, man. I'll make it brief as well too. I just think it's a slight possibility. It's never completely out the door. I just think now with his age, being 32 once the season start, is honestly something that Brett Veach looks at. Now we do like to have veteran guys in certain positions, but just with JK Dobbins, actually showing up for the visit, like our own Nate Taylor said, he said that doesn't completely mean that JK Dobbins is out the door. He said it was a positive visit, and it could be something there once it comes after the draft later towards the end of the offseason. So depending depending on what his market is looking like, he could become a Kansas City Chief, and he's 25 years old. He's not that old. So he would much probably rather prefer someone like that. We want to know what your injury history is. Well, what's going on right now? Are you going to be good to go? Are you going to be someone who we can actually rely on? And we know with Jet McKinnon, he missed a couple games, but he's there for the playoffs, and he's there for those moments. And honestly, it's been like that for the running back room anyway. Typically we have 3 guys available, and it's either out of those 3, Isaiah Pacheco, Jet McKinnon, or Clyde. At least one of those guys are out, and we are going with Michael Piron, excuse me. Or if they want, probably Deneric Prince. And we got to see how it goes for him in the preseason and see if he, does better than what he did last year. So I think it's a possibility. But right now, especially with that international signing, it's kind of full too. We don't know how they actually feel. I'm being truthful. I know I'm just putting it out there. Like, I don't know how they really see it going. So it can happen. But if it does happen, I think it'd be before preseason start, knowing that he's going to be on the team. And then, honestly, we'll probably see him towards the regular season. But I haven't heard nothing too much about his market so far. So I'll let y'all know. A lot of us thought Clyde would be gone. He can be back for sure.
Right.
Yeah, and I just don't see it happening with the age. I think the Chiefs just know they're eventually going to have to get younger there. I think the Clyde's Edwards-Helaire signing says everything. I think they says everything I need to know about what they're going to do on third down, and how they're going to start treating third down moving forward. They like to have an older back in there, especially when it comes to pass protection. So I just don't know. I don't see the market for Jet right now, and it's unfortunate. I love Jet to death, but at 32 years old, the 2 knee injuries. I know he hasn't been injured a lot here, but he did deal with some hamstring injuries just this year. Not in previous years, but he had some this year. So they held him out a couple times. So I don't know if the Jet market is there unless somebody gets hurt or somebody just see that it's a catastrophe with the international guy, or Deneric Prince is just absolutely not going to work, or if they don't find anyone in the draft, then I see maybe going back to Jet McKinnon. But just as far as right now, with that age in the market for running backs, I just don't see it happening.
I don't think that the rugby player should get brought up in these running back conversations. He is way too raw to be considered anything of an NFL level running back. So he is this special gadget player who will probably ride the bench for the entire year, if not several years. So do not expect to see him be especially like legitimate offensive snaps. I think that's assuming way too much. So the Chiefs still need, debate what you want about Michael Piron. They need another running back. So will it be McKinnon? Will it be someone in the draft? We'll have to find out. But I don't think the Chiefs can go into this season, or specifically week 1 preseason, with the amount of running backs they have on their roster and be satisfied. Because especially preseason, you've got 2 throwaway games where you use your entire backups that aren't even going to be on the team anyway. So you need bodies in that room regardless. But we need another starter or backup level running back on our roster to continue. If Clyde's going to take that backup role that McKinnon played, and it's sad that McKinnon started to fizzle out towards this last season and did not get to play during the postseason this year, despite being like the master in the 2022 season. That's why I'm still saying there's a little baby chance that if the timing and the money and on all that works out, that he could at least take up a roster spot. Whether he makes any difference in the regular season or postseason, we'll have to find out. But to see him back on the roster, at least taking up a roster spot, I still could see as a viable choice for the Chiefs if they choose to go that way.
Yeah, and and I just want to say, Clint, all the clips I seen of the over international player working out have been running back clips, running back like snaps, running back like passes out of the
I
backfield,
understand, but
running
those
back
clips don't
like
make him look
handoffs.
good either.
Well, no,
They
it
don't.
doesn't.
They
But I'm
don't
just saying.
showcase him in a positive light. So if you're
Well,
going off that, then that's
Well,
not.
I'm
a
just
good
saying, I don't think
indicator.
they're lining him up and telling him run a bang 8 or you gonna run a 9. Like, I don't think they're not lining him up and putting him out in the formation and giving him you're playing
He's
an
off
X.
limit.
He's
He's
gonna
off
be
limits.
strictly running back and fullback. Like, I
He's
just can see
off.
it now.
He's off limits for wide receiver. Like, I'm not
Exactly.
going with that route running, Clinton.
Exactly.
I'm not. Now I can feel you
Put
with the
him there.
gadget.
I'm not
I
putting
feel
him
you.
there. I'm
I know
saying
you saying
he
don't
is
put
not
him.
a running
Yeah.
back. He is not an NFL running back. If he's not
But
an NFL
the
wide receiver,
contract, though,
will he
Clint,
make
you said it.
It doesn't. He
Why
doesn't
do you
have to
sign a
make a
contract like
roster.
that if you're not gonna get any snaps? Why would you even sign a contract like that?
Because
Jordan Mailata, I'm pretty sure, did not take real snaps in his first seasons in the NFL. He rode the bench and just tried to learn this new sport. That's what I see here. Maybe he'll last. But if you do not play for the Chiefs 53-man roster, it doesn't matter what contract you were signed to. You're not going to stay on the roster. And the Chiefs ought to know that by the time April and May and training camp rolls around, whether they think this guy can legitimately hold up in an NFL game.
So you think possibly he might not even make it to the preseason to even know what he's doing?
I'm saying he could play in the preseason, and
he got to play some position though. Like,
and like
I
some Tim Tebow type stuff. It was a what was this? Oh gosh, this was not a good move. He is not ready. And throw it to the side and be like, that's a new project to hold off for another year or two. So.
Okay.
I mean,
that's hilarious
that
he gets thrown into the Jerick McKinnon conversation.
Oh my! I don't think
that's the funny part.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I've been very big on like saying he's a running back just because I saw him run like a rugby player.
Too.
Like when I get exactly what you're saying. I know we've been long on this, and just got to put it out there. I don't think you're wrong at all. I think it's just when we go into the preseason, it's like where is he going to line up at? And we know for sure that they're going to try him at kick returner. We know that's solid because the rules is kind of meant for him to probably be able to capitalize off of that. But running back, we seen him in there. They're talking about him a size of 6'3", somewhat similar to Derrick Henry, who is a successful NFL running back. They might be like, hey, bro, hand you the ball, run. Just don't kick while you're running. Just run through the hole, score a touchdown, see what happens. But I feel you. It might be something where it's like, we can sign him to this 3-year deal. We're going to see what you can do. And we're going to work with you. If we feel like we can get you to this point of actually playing the position, bet we might be able to win off of this. So I feel what you're saying. I think we were just trying to see, like, we're just trying to put him somewhere. Like, that's all. But if it don't work out, it just don't work out. But I feel you.
Like putting Justin Ross at a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. It might take a little time.
We was hyping that. And we haven't seen nothing yet like that.
Nope. So,
yeah.
All right. Let's transition. And before we get to that, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Red Kingdom Media. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Follow us on our TikTok, on our Instagram, on our X, on our Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We're approaching the 100 subscriber mark. Help us get over that hump. And also, if you'd like to join our Substack, you can go to the link below and head out there. If you're interested in being a paid subscriber and checking out some of our paid content, we'll have some more of that coming out this week. Part of that will tie into what we're about to talk about here in a little bit. But stay tuned for that if you're a Substack subscriber. So receiving urgency. So obviously we know the news about Rashee Rice and the stuff that came out towards the weekend about him possibly being in possession and some other things in the car that would not be things that person should be driving, and especially in the state of which they were driving in. So Rashee could be in legit legal trouble and will ultimately face some NFL suspension of some kind. We can debate whether it will happen at all, like Tyreek didn't happen, It could go as high as like Charles Omenihu, 6 games, maybe somewhere in the 3. Who knows? But everyone at this point is assuming that Rashee Rice will not be on the field, at least to begin the regular season. So the Chiefs arguably then are without their number 1 wide receiver going into the beginning of the season. So does this drastically alter the Chiefs' plans for wide receiver? And does it up the urgency of drafting a wide receiver within the first round or earlier and trading up? So, Dale, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so Rodney, he might share the same sentiment. So make sure to check out his article later on this week because he'll be discussing that a little bit more. But I do think there's a possibility that the Chiefs will ultimately go ahead and go a wide receiver in the first round. The reason why I think they just want to have someone who can be able to come in and have a skill set to where they can actually help out this offense. And along with that, when Rashee Rice does come back, we just have more weapons to add to the bucket, right? We can just go ahead and operate with more guys and have more opportunities to have that offense play at a high level. So I do think that they're going to go ahead and be like, hey, let's go ahead and go get the wide receiver that we want in the first round, add that to our wide receiving room, just because we did sign Hollywood Brown this offseason as well, too. And y'all know I spoke highly of the wide receiving room still, even though with the mistakes that we also saw last year, and we know some guys did not play great. But I've been strong on some people that we saw in the previous preseasons to where they showed great flashes to where if they can catch the ball, hold on to it, do their job, we can be fine with that. We saw Mahomes operate with less. Now I don't think in this situation he will be have the same issue, especially drafting a guy number 1, well, a guy in the first round of the draft, right? I think he'll have, you still got Travis Kelce, you have Hollywood Brown added, do you have a number 1 guy? I mean, just like that, if you wasn't getting someone in the first round as well, and you wait in the later rounds, and they potentially try to find their way on the 53-man roster by regular season, you're kind of going into the same situation last year where it's like, hey, Marquez Valdez-Scantling is out and Hollywood Brown is in, and you're just, plugging in someone else to fill in that role. And you're saying like, hey, this guy will make it a lot better, and we're okay with that if you left it alone like that, right? So, I mean, still, that's why I have this sentiment of, yep, go ahead and just, if you want, you're worried about the ages of guys who is in free agency right now. It's still speculation if we're going to go after Odell or not. Usually when this happens, we be like, nah, we'll just go ahead and go with what we have. But we're going to go into the draft first and see what we get and see if we really want to do that. So I do think they go ahead and grab a guy right there. I would love to see them get a left tackle so we can go ahead and shore that up. But depending on what they can do, and Clinton, I'm sure you're going to talk about it later on anyway, really the only guy that you want to go for is Joe Alt. So if anything, if we're getting someone who's a project player as well too, you might as well go ahead and add to the room that had some trouble last year. And guess what? You have an excuse to add more weapons for Patrick Mahomes because it was atrocious for the beginning part of the regular season last year. And it got somewhat better towards the end. And we still had a little bit of problems. So you have a reason to be like, I'm going all in, get Patrick Mahomes all the weapons. Don't have to really worry too much about defense anyway. Really, everybody on the offensive side, other than the receivers, played well. Our tight ends are fine. Offensive line is decent, except for left tackle as of now. But we're having high hopes for Y.A. Morris. So we'll see what happens there. So really, the wide receiver room is the one that need more people in there to compete and see who's the best of the best. So go ahead with this situation. It gives you an excuse right now, and that doesn't mean that this is the end of the tenure for Rashee Rice. That means once he comes back, he's going to have a better excuse of why he should have over 1,000 yards because we're going to have too many guys that they have to worry about and cover, especially with our old man Travis Kelce still playing at a high level. So that's my thoughts about it. But yes, he's going to face a punishment. I think we can just go ahead and let that go and accept it. If he doesn't, great for us. If he do, we was prepared. But it's not going to be more than 6 games.
All right, well, Lonnie.
Yeah, and like I told you guys, I just found out that he was in possession of this this substance when he was caught before the show aired. So before we just went and started recording. So I think this does press that urgency need for wide receiver up higher than what it was before. Before this took place. I think it went left tackle and then wide receiver, but I think for sure we had like questions as far as like defensive end, tight end, just different things. That maybe if it was best player available at that position, but I think now for sure this surefire sets that second need is wide receiver. Because like you said, this guy he's gonna miss some time. Rashee Rice is gonna miss some time being it. He got caught with all of that stuff and how the situation transpired. We're just hoping that it's not for a long period of time. But I think you do. I don't know if they trade up super high to try and get one. I don't know if they reach outside of their body, get up to that top 10, top 15 type air to get a wide receiver. I don't know if they do that, but I do think that they do press and try and get a game changer there just to add to the room. Because like you said, they had some needs at wide receiver that were blaring and super duper big last year until we got to the playoffs and MVS made a couple catches to keep his career alive. So, I mean, it was really, this is something that you don't want to go into this year questioning or having to think about. I think if you're a general manager in Brett Veach, so I think you have to go out and find some type of playmaker, whether that be in the wide receiver room or the running back room. Because they like to transition guys from running back to wide receiver as well. So I think it definitely made the need a lot more urgent for them.
It sucks because it almost forces the Chiefs' hand, and that's the one thing in a draft you don't want to do, and especially have every other team in the draft know what your number one need is, and unless you have the number one pick, there's no guarantee you're going to pick the player that you're interested in. So, yes, this upped the urgency for wide receiver help. But unfortunately, the assets the Chiefs have to acquire wide receiver help is the same as it was before the Rashee Rice news. And they're in that semi-good, semi-bad place to be. Because in my mind, and especially for those who follow mock drafts, there's like 3 tiers of wide receivers that I think are going somewhere in the first round. And I think 5 or 6 of those are getting picked way before 32. And as I've said in other shows, the worst thing you can do is say, we have to take this position of player. And he's like the 10th best one or the 7th best one, right? So that's the worst thing, is getting forced into that selection. And I truly do not want the Chiefs to feel like their hands are tied and must choose wide receiver before or at 32, regardless of who is there. If a player they like is there, then there's no arguing about it. But last year, they used pick 32 on a player that didn't really contribute much for the entirety of the season. If the Chiefs need a wide receiver this badly, that cannot be the case this season. If they get a wide receiver or wide receivers, they have to be as like immediate contributing as Rashee Rice was. Gone are the times where there's a Sky Moore type of level. That type of level is not good enough for the Chiefs anymore, and will get you called out by the fan base. And maybe towards the end of last year, got called out by the coaching staff too. So if the Chiefs have wide receiver plans, they need to make sure they execute it. Because what was a joke we had mentioned a couple weeks ago, especially with Xavier Worthy, any team's going to find a reason to take him ahead of the Chiefs, right? Mock drafts, he's like a 2nd round pick. So because he's a wide receiver, and because he would go to the Chiefs, we're all inflating these guys' like impact.
Mm-hmm.
There's this giant impact, and all of it is this perceived of just not being for the Chiefs. And that's not how NFL teams think. NFL teams think about how players impact their team, not how having somebody would impact another team.
Exactly.
So there might be a team that really loves Xavier Worthy for what they do. Honestly, his teammate might get picked by an AFC rival team that we don't want him to go to, or even higher than that, or like a Brian Thomas gets picked higher than we would want.
Mhm.
So to have your heart set on a certain player and certain position at that first round pick could be setting the Chiefs up for failure. So in the back of their mind, that's probably what they're thinking, but they cannot be like demonstrating that they are picking wide receiver no matter what. No slip in their pocket written on there, regardless of what happens. They can't going into the draft with that stubborn of a plan. Sorry, Joe.
No, for real, because I wanted you to finish that because, they're very silent when they do stuff as well, too. We never have conversation of them alluding to actually trading up. They just do it when it happens the day of like, hey, yep, we want to trade up with you with this. That's how you got Trent McDuffie, right? So with Patrick Mahomes as well, too, I promise I really didn't expect us to trade up. I was like, maybe they just going to wait, see what happened. Oh, Kansas City Chiefs now on the clock. Whoa, all right. They don't say anything. And
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up about like people picking other players to try to affect another team because we know if that person goes to that team, they're going to go to this point. You're ruining your own game plan because if they don't fit your scheme and what you have going on, you're really just messing up yourself and you're already giving me the advantage right there. So if I'm the Chiefs, we talked about how deep this wide receiver class is right now. And we talked about guys like Lab McConkey, who people are like somewhat overlooking, but he did have somewhat of a strong showing in the Senior Bowl when he was doing his reps. We seen his route running ability, and he also played for an organization that was winners in college as well too. They won multiple national championships, so he has that winner mentality as well too. I mean, if he's there, you have the debate if you want him there right now, but it's really like who's the best available on your board. If the guy who's available on your board over this wide receiver and you really want them more and it makes sense for you to get them, go ahead and do it. Like, I'm just a fan telling you. But I think the urgency is there where it's like, all right, if this person fall and I have the ability to go ahead and pick them up, I'm going to go ahead and do it.
I'll just say my final thing about that is you're almost making yourself fall into the Clyde Edwards-Helaire draft. You know what I mean? Their number one need in 2020 was arguably running back.
Right. Damian Williams.
Picked 32 on a running back. Oh, T. Higgins went pick 33. Should have picked him. These other wide receivers or running backs. Like, that's how it works anyway. The Chiefs might think the perfect scenario is they need a wide receiver, and Lad McConkey's been there and will be there at 32, and that's their plan the whole time. That may be. But for them to have that plan is, one, dangerous because it could obviously change at any moment with somebody picking a player that you covet, or another player is available and you're not seeing the value in that, or like jumping to get a player that has more value than some of these other guys that you think you would settle on. That's the worst thing you could do is in the draft, settle on a particular player at a particular pick. You're always talking about value.
Yeah. And I just want to say this. If we're going Georgia wide receivers, Chris Conley, Miko Hardman, man, Lyle McConkey, I guess, makes sense. I mean, the Chiefs love them some Georgia wide receivers.
Now I don't want it now. Leave it alone. Chris Conley, I was cool with Chris Conley, though. I'm not going to do that. That
was the worst thing. Like, Chris Conley's worst thing was that we got Patrick Mahomes too late, because he would have been the perfect wide receiver, a jump ball, fast, tall wide receiver. Just go up and get the ball in the end zone. Like, I
forgot that catch against the 49ers going out. Who was there? Chris Conley.
Yeah.
He cooked us in the first part of the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say nothing. I was mad. You can go back and look at it, y'all. I was hot. I was hot.
Murdering on special teams.
Yes, sir. Okay, well, our last topic of the day is arguably the most controversial and the one that's the most dramatic, especially around the parts where Lonny and I live. But Dale, we'll start with you because, well, you're not here to have a big enough say about it, and the drama will just build and build the more we pass this around. So obviously the no vote happened, and the Chiefs and Royals will not be connected. The sales tax set to end, and both teams are flirting with different locations and moving to different places or different states. So Dale, how do you think this affects the future of the Royals, but more importantly, the Chiefs?
Well, the future for the Royals, I mean, the owner wife already put out there that that they're done actually negotiating with Jackson County. But let me tell you something. What you're not going to do is try to include the Chiefs on that, because this is what they were telling me earlier. You guys were telling me this. Really, it was just more of the Royals trying to get this extension so they can go ahead and try to move downtown. The Chiefs just jumped on a wagon because, I mean, y'all both are the sports teams in the same area, in the same complex, supporting one another. And you thought, well, it does benefit us as well. And the Chiefs, wanted to jump on that and kind of be like, okay, yeah, us too. I do think if it was just the Chiefs by itself, it'd be probably more discussion just because they're more deserving of it, due to what they have been doing right now as a franchise and playing well. But at the same time, it's not going to affect areas that already have businesses established and have plans already going on as well too. Where if they're already in their area, they just need more money to add on with that to help put more renovations and talk about this fan experience. Now, what you can't do is just go out there and give this lackluster plan and think people are going to be like, okay. I will say, my people voted yes, but I had to tell them a little bit more because they were just thinking about keeping the Chiefs in Kansas City. And people don't know about that. They don't know what comes into that. And that's what's frustrating because it makes it a political thing. And, sports really doesn't belong in politics just because it doesn't mesh. How we argue about politics is really the kind of the same thing about sports, but at least sports is subjective and we just all have our own personal opinion. With some of the laws and a lot of things when it comes into politics, that's just hard to play with because it's just so many different sides of it to where it's like this person with their opinion is technically not wrong because it might affect them in this way opposed to the other party that feels like that, and it just brings too much friction between everyone. And they thought they was going to bully people that was in Jackson County. It wasn't going. They weren't going for that. So y'all need to figure out what's going on. Kansas City, if I'm you, Clark Hunt, don't worry about the Shermans. Do you come up with a plan? I want to talk about it for ourselves because as of now, I will say, I would be worried a little bit. They talked about this and they put it on the radio as well too. Like, hey, y'all thinking voting no? It's just like they're just gonna come back and just put another plan together, talk to us. I know. I feel like that's what's more than likely going to happen. But don't be surprised if they be like, that's all I'm saying, because they can do that. That's the thing about it. When you say you're not going to do something for them, it's their choice to be like, okay, screw you. I'm gonna just go find someone else. That's wrong. Morals wise, that I don't feel that's right. But in business, they care about that dollar and what matters more to them. So it sucks. I don't want to go too much into it. I'm not a resident no more. I miss being back home. I was back home for a little bit. Food was great. I missed the food. So I mean, if they got good food spots down there, like leave that alone, bro. Go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Lonnie, go ahead.
Yeah, and I just don't. I voted no. And I actually didn't vote at all. I took my co-host's advice and just didn't go vote. I just didn't support this whole move from the get go. I'm not a fan of mixing politics and sports in no way, shape, or form. Like Clinton said, the Chiefs were never a part of this situation until later. And we start to see campaigns and promos ran with the Chiefs in them. They looked like they had probably been shot months and months prior to this even going out, to try and get us to help vote yes on this proposition. When you mix taxes, you mix money, taxpayers, dollars, real life situations, just as far as like paying taxes on a car, when you need to go pay for your car, paying taxes on your home, when you have to pay taxes on your home, and you mix that with sports, something that you love. Obviously, you're trying to get something out of a person, and I think if you're grown and you're a grown person, you can see that, and you don't like that type of stuff. I think you should really start leaving. You should leave some things alone. All older people are not naive. I feel like this is a move where they try to just kind of take advantage of us, take advantage of something that we covet and that we love as a city so much, and say, since you love it so much, how about you pay for it, or how about you show us how much you love it? So I mean, if this is what they feel like is us showing that we love, is voting yes on the proposition to raise taxes, to tear down businesses in a city that we love so much, and to kind of uproot everything that's going on and start an entirely new process in the downtown with 20,000 parking spots that is already super duper loaded with the Sprint Center. It's crazy. I can't believe that this really even happened in our city. I can't believe it's actually happening right now. We don't know what tomorrow looks like, but I don't think that moving forward that this is a position that the city should take, or these two teams should take, especially when it comes to even sales tax, or trying to get a proposition passed, or maybe even getting a stadium placed in a different location, or having renovations happen to a stadium. I think it's something that these teams should be better prepared for. When you're doing stuff like this, it should be months and months prior, years prior, before you start trying to set stuff in stone and present things to people. This looked like a whole amateur project from the time it started. Like you said, we're still looking at projects and possibilities of Royal Stadium. We never had seen the Chiefs layout. That stuff that came out about the Chiefs and the fan experience, we had never seen that to the day it dropped. So like it just looks like a third grader just drew this whole situation or campaign up and tried to say, here you go, Jackson County, let's raise some taxes and you're going to pay for a stadium downtown. And we're going to wipe our hands with y'all. And that's what we're going to tell you you're going to do, and you're going to do it. So I didn't like it, but this is where we at, and we'll see where we go. Hopefully there's no more scare tactics. Hopefully everything is transparent from now on, because that's what they need to be.
Well, Lonnie, they're acting like third graders still, because they're stamping their foot saying, if you better give me what I want, or we'll just go ahead and leave. We won't even talk to you anymore. So now the owners are using that stubborn kid-like behavior, saying, you didn't give me what I want, so we're not even going to talk again. And I've got a lot to say, so let's try to organize this the best I can. So I think the Chiefs and the Royals assumed this was a no-brainer for them when it was not so close to the date. And then a week or two until, I feel like they got the nerve that, oh, this is not a for sure thing. So they were non-stop marketing. $1 million between both Kansas City teams in marketing. Every ad was vote yes. My mailbox got random ads at like 9 p.m. at night to get me to vote yes. So that is how desperate that both teams have gotten. And frankly, the Chiefs do not need to be desperate. They do not need to be this way. This is the perfect opportunity for the Royals and Chiefs to divorce, because the Royals made it perfectly clear they are not staying at the Jackson Sports Complex, the Truman Sports Park. They're not staying there. They are moving. They don't care where or when. They're telling you Kauffman Stadium will not host the Royals at some point in the future, and to deal with it. That is what the owners said, and that is what they're going with. So if that was the baseline for getting this passed, they were screwed. Nobody wanted them to have a downtown stadium without any preparation. So if they thought that getting the Chiefs to bandwagon them over the finish line was going to work, then they have another thing coming. And at this point, Clark Hunt and the Chiefs need to be very careful about how they treat Jackson County. Because, like it or not, majority of their season ticket members are within the confines of Jackson County. And that is not just Kansas City, Missouri. That is 3-4 other cities in the confounding area. Can the Chiefs be good if they move to Johnson County? Sure, absolutely they can. But this sales tax that Jackson County chose to reject was the same one that they chose to bring on years before when both teams were garbage. So now the Chiefs need to realistically ask themselves, if they move to another place and Mahomes is not on the team anymore, because Mahomes will eventually not be on the Chiefs. The NFL will not cease to exist before Patrick Mahomes stops playing for the Chiefs. That is a fact. So Patrick Mahomes will at some point stop playing for the Chiefs. If the Chiefs become bad, who is going to support them? Who is going to fill an Arrowhead Stadium somewhere else with a bad football team? The way that Jackson County supported both of those teams for the years that they did. And regardless of how that vote went, we're still wearing the logos. Like, we still support the brand. We can still support the brand and say, you are not putting as much thought into this as you should. And you tried to scare me.
Right.
And that's not going to work. We were doing this supporting thing. And we mentioned how much we were helping each other. And now the sports teams are acting like they are the bigger entity and not the community that they represent.
Mm-hmm.
So the Royals, I think, have gone to a place where they're done with it. And like you said, the Royals owner's wife went on spouting. Mayor Lucas is convinced he can still make it work. But then you got people, Johnson County saying, come on over. You got Topeka, Kansas governor saying, come on over. You got Dallas, Texas mayor saying, come on over. So they're all going to try to force the issue. And obviously people like Lonnie and I, they're going to make us look to be the villains because we didn't give the billionaire owners the opportunity to keep billions of their dollars and to continue to take my extra dollar through the grocery store every time, and thought that was like a mutually beneficial agreement. You're moving a stadium somewhere else. You're tearing down this other one. You're spending my money to tear down and build something else. Look at Kauffman Stadium. I'm so tired of hearing the notion about how bad Kauffman Stadium is. That is one of the most beautiful stadiums on TV. So for them to say it's bad and it's fallen apart is just out of greed. And a Midwest area is not going to support a decision just solely based on greed. You're going to have some morals behind that. You're going to have a backbone behind the decisions you make. And you're not going to fear tactic Jackson County into giving you what you wanted. You fought and you messed up.
Right.
No.
And if you slight Jackson County now by saying it's your fault for not giving us what we wanted and we're out of here, you need to be careful. Because yes, we will still support the teams. But it depends on how far they move and whether or not they still represent where they are supposed to. Because if it's clear in Texas, it ain't the same.
Yeah, and look, this is my thought on Texas. I just heard people say this. You think another team is moving to Texas and Jerry Jones, another Super Bowl winning team other than the Cowboys, is moving anywhere close to Texas, and Jerry Jones is gonna let it happen, you better be in for a rude awakening. Ain't no team moving there that is getting more attention than the Cowboys. He don't even probably want the Texans there right now. So you're not getting a Super Bowl team to take away the shine of the Cowboys. I just don't.
I would say this though, the Dallas Mayor, because I don't know if they in the same counties, because we're talking about counties right now. They are in the city of Arlington. The Dallas Mayor talking about bringing them back to the heart of Dallas. So
that would take half the attention off of Jerry's world. You think Jerry want that?
I mean, he's gonna fight it. He's gonna be like, "Hey, y'all need to figure it out." I'm just saying, like the Dallas Mayor, like I don't care what That's cool. Like with Jerry, like I can understand. You're right. Jerry's not gonna like that, but the Dallas Mayor and the people there, who knows how they feel. But a lot of them saying like, "Nah." I mean, they would love to have it, but they like, "Nah, we rocking with the Cowboys." So, yeah, it's probably not happening. I think he, like Clayton was saying, he was just saying stuff and kind of like pushing. I feel like they're kind of trying to push us to vote for it. Like it's still politics, right? I'm all right. I see y'all trying to get your people over there to try to do a little bit more. Maybe I can go ahead and kind of add a little bit to it to kind of make people get worried, get flustered. Like, oh, this city over here they're really thirsty for it, and they're a big city as well too. Dallas, everybody love Dallas. They trying to get y'all worried. Y'all stay strong though, so still figure it out. Still figure it out.
This is such a drama train we've got going on, and everybody on social media is either convinced that they're definitely moving and trying to antagonize it, or stubborn and thinking they're for sure staying. I don't know where any of us tends to lean on that, and I don't think it's worth having an opinion on it right now, because all these are decisions that are supposed to be made 5 years from now. But the NFL and well, both the owners were making this urgency happen, that it needed to happen now, when nothing is going to be happening for the end of this decade. So lawmakers just need to continue to work with representatives. Like I said, the teams don't need to be connected anymore. If both teams don't have a desire to share the same complex and share the same parking lot and have those accommodations between the two of them, then let's start there. If the Royals need their stadium worked out, then let's work that them. But let's acknowledge that the Chiefs are more vital to Kansas City's economy than the Royals, and working in agreement with Clark Hunt should be the move first, because John Sherman's going to do whatever the heck he wants to do. And we can say that he's loyal and a Kansas City guy, but he's a billionaire, and billionaires like money and making business decisions that give them most money and profit and exposure.
And he's from St. Louis, right?
I know he's from the area. I know he went to college at Ottawa. So he's connected to Kansas City itself.
Get some wins, bro. If you don't get wins, like you said, Clint, I think Clint said it the best. You're not putting asses in the seats, man. I'm sorry. You have to win, bro. Win. You have to win. You got to win to put butts in the seats. So I don't care where you go. You better ask Oakland, bro. If you're not winning, it doesn't matter where you go. You can turn it into a party town all you want. Nobody's showing up. I'm not spending $100 on a drink to watch you lose. No, seriously, like for real. And I'm not going to buy a t-shirt from your gift shop for your loser team either. I'm not doing that. So like, find a different way to make money.
Yeah, I mean, I think a good example is Carolina, right? Their team has looked so bad that they were basically trying to hand out tickets to their game. And I mean, their stadium's relatively new. It's not like brand new by any stretch, but it's that new wave of stadiums. So they can't say it's in dire need of an upgrade. If your team is not performing well, eventually even your diehards don't think the time going to your game is well spent.
All right.
And if you're still in an area around Jackson County, that can be overlooked because it's something to do. It's an entertainment thing. It's a whole ordeal. It's not just a game. But if you're going to make people like Lonnie and I drive several hours for a game and you're not very good, that might change how we feel about things. And that's the worst thing a sports team can do, is be losing interest. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a long story for this. And we've got tons of opinions on it. Some good, some bad, some can't be mentioned here, but it goes to show that the teams made a mistake in assuming that they could bring sports into politics and fight their way to their outcome. And Jackson County was not going to have it. So good on the voters who decided that they did not hear enough information. And sorry to those who voted yes and really wanted it, or to those who voted yes because you were afraid that this type of talk of getting pushed out and your team being ripped away from you was exactly what you feared. So it sucks that the owners led that impression on to where they almost felt forced to doing a yes vote, even if it didn't make moral sense, let alone financial sense for taxpayers around here. So do you guys have any other thoughts about that before we officially close?
I'm good. I think both of you hit it on the nose. So
Nope, nothing. Like I said, well spoken, Clint. You let him have it.
All right, just let me know which district needs some. No, I mean, hey, I'll give it a try. See if anybody needs a politician out there. Except I can't be bought. Can't buy my opinion. If you got a bad idea, I'm gonna tell it to you, whether I love you or hate you. That's a bad idea.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your evening or next day if you're watching then. God bless each and every one of you. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, let's go Chiefs!
Thanks for checking out this update straight from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate your passion, so please leave a like and follow us wherever you tune in from. See you next tailgate, your trusted source for all things Chiefs, Red Kingdom